Beneath the echoing tunnels of the Paris metro, a voice once rose above the noise, gentle, fragile, full of yearning. She wasn't famous at first. Just a young woman with a guitar and a soul too big for silence. This is the story of the girl who sang in shadows, a voice of longing, of freedom, and of home, a voice the world could never forget. Her name was Sirima. France called her a star. We call her our own. Sirima Nicole Wiratunga was born on February 14, 1964, in Isleworth, England, to a Sri Lankan father and a French mother. But her story didn't begin in the West. At just 2 years old, she was brought to her father's homeland, the warm village of Yakala in Gampaha district. There, she grew up with the sounds of a Sri Lankan village. Buddhist temple drums in the distance, church bells on Sunday mornings, and the joyful beat of Baila at family gatherings. At Holy Cross College, she stood out, not just for her voice, but for the quiet light she carried. Even in first grade, teachers would ask her to sing for the class. Soon, she was performing at community events, Buddhist festivals, and Catholic church choirs, moving easily between Baila, Sinhala pop, and sacred hymns. She often sang with her two sisters and her best friend, a little group performing at school functions and church events. "We always won something," she once said, laughing softly. The stage came early, and so did the love of song. But childhood doesn't last forever. When Sirima was just 8, her parents separated. She left Sri Lanka with her mother, leaving behind the island, the rhythm, and the warmth. In London, she became a child of two worlds, East and West, Sinhala and French. Rain-soaked streets on the outside, but island sunlight still glowing within. At 18, she moved again, this time to France, working as an au pair for a family in Paris. But her true voice wasn't found in kitchens or quiet homes. It echoed in the corridors of Châtelet, Les Halles Metro. From 1982 to 1987, she stood underground, guitar in hand, singing to strangers who didn't even know her name. She wasn't chasing fame. She was simply sharing herself. Her voice was unforgettable, soft as a lullaby, bold as a confession. She sang of heartbreak, of wonder, of a life in motion. And slowly, the city began to listen. Paris noticed the girl with the angel's voice in the underground. In the Paris metro, Sirima sang not for fame, but for freedom, for truth, for herself. And one day, someone listened. His name was Philippe Delettrez, a saxophonist. She felt something the moment they met, a quiet spark of trust. It was the start of a musical bond that would shape her destiny. They began working together, his music, her words. They recorded a simple demo and shared it among friends. One of them passed it on to Jean-Jacques Goldman, one of France's greatest musical icons who had been searching for the perfect female voice for a new duet. Goldman had listened to dozens of demos until he heard her, and when she stepped up to the mic, he knew instantly. This was the voice. This was the soul. He later said, "Sirima seduced me with her voice, both soft and powerful. She had exactly what I was looking for, someone who could whisper and explode in the same breath. That's rare." In 1987, they released the duet Là-bas, a conversation in song between a man and a woman, between staying and leaving, between comfort and ambition. Sirima sang the female part, in flawless French. She wasn't French by birth, but in her voice you would never know. The song was a massive hit. It topped the French charts. It made her a star, overnight, but she never changed. While producers and record labels tried to shape her career, Sirima chose a different path, one true to herself. Even as her voice swept across the country, she returned to the metro, singing not for fame, but for freedom. She sang not to impress, but to express. And she wanted time for her family, time for her son. She lived with Kahatra Sasoreth, a Laotian musician. Together they had a son, Kim, whom she cherished. In November 1989, Sirima released her only album, A Part of Me, sung entirely in English. It was the language of her reflections, her emotions, her quiet strength. Songs like Sometimes Love Isn't Enough, His Way of Loving Me, and I Need to Know spoke of tenderness, heartbreak, and resilience. And then there was Kim, a gentle lullaby for her son, a song of love, of protection, of a mother's quiet devotion. In it, she sings, Together we will shine through life. You will be my light tonight. And softly, she promises, I will be your sun, you moon. Together we will shine. Her voice carried hope, and her words, devotion. But behind closed doors, things began to unravel. Jealousy took root, control turned into tension, and one night everything changed. On December 7, 1989, just weeks after the release of her first solo album, A Part of Me, Sirima was stabbed to death in her home by her partner. She was just 25 years old. In 2021, France remembered her through the documentary, Elle s'appelait Sirima. Her name was Sirima. Her son Kim carries her memory. Her fans still play her songs. Her voice still echoes in quiet corners of the world. But in Sri Lanka, the land where her rhythm was born, her name remains a whisper. Sirima sang in both French and English. She lived between two worlds, but sang from the heart of one. Sirima Nicole Wiratunga, a voice from Sri Lanka, a soul too gentle for this world, a song that ended too soon, but one the world never truly forgot. She gave us her voice. Let's never let it be forgotten. This is a tribute by Hela Nomad, remembering stories that still echo in silence.